Hey, how y'all doing out there? I got some old crazy news for y'all. Diddy was so nervous during jury selection, he almost boo-booed on himself. He had to ask the judge to excuse him for 2 minutes so he could release them oatmeals and eggs he had for breakfast. He said, "I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm a little nervous today." Asking for a 2-minute bathroom break after roughly 90 minutes of jury questioning, they drew him looking like it's Christmas time. I don't know if he's supposed to be Santa Claus or Krampus, but one thing for sure, that man had the bubble guts. It's getting real. He about to be facing life in jail. If I was facing time like that, I would have the bubble guts too.
Today in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is sex trafficking, racketeering, and more. The two sides are now in the process of selecting a jury of 12 plus alternates. Most of the prospective jurors acknowledge they're aware of Combs' case and also the allegations that span some 20 years. Among those allegations, he's accused of forcing at least 3 women to engage in sex acts with him and at times with male prostitutes during parties known as freak-offs, which lasted for days. Combs faces spending the rest of his life in prison. CNN's Kara Scannell has been covering all of these developments for us. She's outside New York's federal court right now. So some of these prospective jurors already turned away. Kara, why?
Yeah, a number of jurors have been turned away. One woman, because she had seen that hotel surveillance video, she saw a still image of it where Combs is on camera kicking and dragging his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Now, the jurors said that she referred to it as damning evidence. And after a back and forth with the judge, he decided to excuse her for cause because she had formed an opinion on it. I mean, other jurors had been excused, one because the man had just started a new job and couldn't take off 8 weeks. Another juror was excused because he said he had a negative experience with law enforcement. But so far, 11 jurors have qualified to continue through this process. And the magic number here is 45. Once they hit 45 jurors, that is when the judge will have both the prosecutors and Combs' team do their peremptory strikes. That's where they can eliminate jurors for just about any reason.
Diddy got every right to have the bubble guts. Who haven't seen the Cassie video? Who haven't had a bad experience with law enforcement? Who haven't seen the documentaries? Who haven't heard about his freak-offs, the baby oil? He going to jail for sure, especially if they depending on the public to judge him. Only God can judge that man. They need to get some celebrities up there, people that have been to the parties so they could give their account. And they just as guilty as he is if they was at the parties. How come he the only one on trial? He paid people to have sex. People do that all day, every day on social media. I ain't saying he innocent, but this case don't make no sense. My stomach hurting. Hold on, y'all. Oh man, I'ma need some Pepto-Bismol or something. I could see why Diddy shot it in the middle of court, because he going to jail for sure. This case is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in the history of court. The OJ trial made sense. Anna Nicole Smith was dead. OJ couldn't fit the glove. It was blood on the scene. He tried to get away in the Bronco. They had voice recordings, evidence. The only evidence they got against Diddy is alleged freak-off parties. Where the videos of the freak-off? Where that's at? Play that in court. And if they do, the whole jury gonna be tainted. If they talking about people upset because of the Cassie video, what the jury gonna do when they see him freaking off with other celebrities? Is they gonna put 2 and 2 together and wonder how come he the only one in jail? How come he the only one on trial? What about the people, the celebrities that was involved in the freak-offs? Cassie was enjoying herself. They seen the video of Cassie in the act, and she was spanking them boys on their butts and begging for more. Diddy had to pull Cassie off of them men allegedly.
Until they get to 12 jurors and a number of alternates. But those who have gotten through, some of them have seen the tape. One woman said she did see that hotel surveillance video. Others were familiar with the case. I mean, there were 2 women who said that they had been sexually abused, saying it happened decades ago, and they thought that they could look at the evidence in this case, which is about sexual assault, and view it fair and unbiased based on what comes into the courtroom. And one woman who is proceeding said she was arrested when she was 16 for shoplifting at Harry Potter's World at Universal Studios. The judge asked her what she stole. She said it was a wand. And then another juror who works for the Department of Corrections said that he pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor felony, and he is continuing in this case. So we're expected to continue as long as it takes to get to that 45 and to get through the strikes. The judge is hopeful that that could be concluded as soon as Wednesday, with opening statements in the case beginning next week, and then the beginning of the evidence. So Combs has pleaded not guilty. He has said, his lawyers have said, that all of these allegations are the prosecutors trying to criminalize his sexual activity that they say was entirely consensual.
Diddy a billionaire, and they letting petty thieves be in the jury. They got people sitting in the jury that was stealing out the Dollar Tree. Now they about to be talking about what he did with his money. If they had the money, ain't no telling what they would have been doing. Diddy wrong for having all that sex as a grown-ass man. Me, I'm a one-gal guy. That's all I need. A woman that act right, that be right, treat me right. If everything right, I'ma be all right. I guess he couldn't find no decent woman. Was Kim Porter good to Diddy or no? Did she cook and clean for that man? Did she rub his back, rub his feet? What's the purpose of having a freak off when you got a good woman at home? It's plenty of men out there that got the money to trick off, but why do that when they got a wife that love them, treat them right, act right? Cassie must wasn't worth a damn for him to be in this situation. It's either he's a horrible person or he came across some horrible women in his lifetime. But one thing for sure, they ain't gonna want to be with Grimace. This man is scary looking. I don't remember his back being that big. I don't remember Diddy looking that crazy. He's scary just by looking at him like this. People gonna want to see him in jail. If Diddy would have never let himself go, he'll be all right. He got a pot belly, double necks. That's before he went to jail. Now that he in jail, he looking like Danny Glover.
All right, let's talk about this now with entertainment attorney and former litigator Lisa Bonner. First, Lisa, I just want to get your reaction to some of what we learned so far. The judge granting a defense request to dismiss a prospective juror because she called the hotel surveillance video damning. Maybe not surprising, but what do you think about this?
Good afternoon, Brianna. It's absolutely not surprising because they want to get to a fair and impartial jury, and someone who has already formed an opinion, for example, is not going to be someone that the defense is going to want to move forward with, because you are supposed to listen to what the judge says in the four corners of the room. And so when you are walking in there with an already pre-approved idea of what you think is going to happen and what you think your opinion is going to be, it is hard to be able to say that that person is going to be swayed and can be fair and impartial.
And we do have the jury questionnaire. One of the questions is, have you, a family member, or someone close to you been the victim of sexual assault, sexual harassment, or domestic violence? It's notable 2 women who said they'd been sexually assaulted in the past remain in the jury pool after being questioned. How could that impact things, and specifically how the defense may handle this?
Well, that's one of the things that you would be looking for as a prosecutor, right? You would like someone who has experience with sexual violence. And that does not mean that you have a predisposed notion of what he did, but you are comfortable with graphic testimony, for example. You are comfortable watching videos and you have some experience. So it's not an ideal juror for the defense, but that is someone that the prosecution would want on their team, and that is not a reason to excuse the juror for cause.
What kind of juror does the defense want?
The defense ideally would be looking for an older man, for example, someone who has maybe been falsely accused by the police, someone who may be in a high-powered job with traditional values, someone who is really does not come in with a preconceived notion, someone who is skeptical of law enforcement, those would be the type of jurors that the defense would be looking for.
So basically, Mama D saying that they want a man like Diddy to be on the defense. They want a bunch of brothers that got hatred in their heart towards the system and them hoochies out there. They want Dr. Umar Johnson on the jury. That's the only way Diddy really gonna get off. It's men versus women. And who haven't been involved with somebody or know somebody that hasn't been sexually harassed? People get harassed all day, every day. And the way women be dressing nowadays, they sexually harassing themselves on social media, walking around with them butt cheeks clapping. What they expect? Nobody to look? That's the times we living in. Ain't nothing but skeezers out here. And Diddy a billionaire, what they expect him to do? Not get no cheeks? So since he a hip hop superstar, he's supposed to be living like a priest. I don't know where this makes sense, man. They need to just throw this whole thing in the can. Like I keep on saying over and over, if they want to throw him in jail for putting hands on Cassie, just say that. That's enough evidence to put him in jail for the rest of his life. You can't convince anybody that he wasn't wrong for doing what he did. He guilty. He guilty of sin. He kicked her square between her ass, then dragged her back to the hotel room and was throwing stuff at her. That's incriminating evidence. You can't talk your way out of that. I don't give a damn if Johnny Cochran was still alive. It's over. So why they playing these games? Y'all know what it is. It ain't nothing but entertainment. Diddy in court with the bubble guts. They playing with his life. He never thought it would get this bad. If he would have shut his mouth about that liquor company and did what them people told him to do and sold that liquor, and he could have retired. He ain't have to renew his contract. He could have did what he had to do. Matter of fact, what was it, yesterday? I had to renew my insurance and they went up hundreds of dollars talking about the price of living and all this BS. I said, hey, cancel my insurance. I'll find some other insurance. I started looking for other insurance. They talking about thousands of dollars. I called my insurance company back and said, hey man, look, I'm just gonna stay with y'all because it's cold out there. I'ma just take whatever y'all giving because it's cheaper than what they trying to do me out there. Diddy should have just doubled back, swallow his pride. He done sued the liquor company. He doing all this extra stuff. Now he in the world of trouble. He ain't think it was gonna get this bad. They playing some games with him, talking about he guilty for having sex. He trafficking people that's willingly throwing them cheeks at him. There's people out here that'll give Diddy the booty for free. He a made man. It ain't like he's some average Joe. I could see if Diddy was a janitor or something and they was playing these games, but they taking this too far. He had the bubble guts in court, y'all. He feeling woozy, he queasing. He trying to squeeze off them farts, done messed around and shorted. He had to ask the judge to excuse him so he can go relieve himself because it's really that bad. And these people speaking on what he did, what about what they done did? They done experienced some things. They done did some things too. Lord have mercy, I got to use the bathroom.
And at this point, Combs' lawyer is saying he could take the stand. Would you find that difficult to believe? Do you think he could help his case or hurt his case?
Well, that's one of the things that a defense lawyer always says. If you look across any of these prior cases, oh, my client is really considering taking the stand. He really wants to tell his side of the story. And I'm willing to bet that he is not going to take the stand. That would be the absolute worst thing that he can do because that offers up cross-examination. It offers up his priors. It offers up him to be caught in a lie and really can talk to him about anything that he has ever done. So there is probably no way that Sean Diddy Combs will take the stand, although that is a very old trick in the book with the defense lawyer saying that he wants to tell his side of the story. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it would be extraordinary if it did. How tough is this case going to be for the defense?
Big mistake. I'm sorry?
How tough is this case going to be for the defense?
It is an extreme uphill battle for the defense. If you look at the indictment, it is very tight. They have video evidence. They have four witnesses, one being Cassie Ventura, who was very detailed and explicit in her complaint. And you have a large digital footprint. You have Combs trying to contact people to try and get them to recant their stories or make sure that their testimony aligns with his. They've got so much incriminating evidence, but the burden is on the prosecution. So the defense does not have to put on a case, but the prosecution has a very, very solid case here, and it's going to be a very uphill battle, especially with what they are offering as a defense, that it was consensual, that these people are in a swinging lifestyle, and the prosecutions are prudes, and that does not really have anything to do with the case. If you have a consensual, sexual swinging lifestyle, the one thing that is implicit in there is consent. And this case is built on the fact that he was abusive, he was violent, he blackmailed people into staying silent. So that really undermines the defense's testimony right there. So I don't really see that this case is going to be easy for the defense to disprove in any way through cross-examination or otherwise any kind of allegations that most of the allegations that the prosecution is putting forward. It's a very, very strong case.
I don't know if Diddy gonna make it through this trial. I'm hoping that he don't unalive himself, because they gonna bury him alive. Having to go through the process is like having open heart surgery with no anesthesia. They ain't putting him to sleep. He gotta sit there and go through it. His stomach acting up. He's nervous. He done told the judge that he ain't gonna be able to do it. He'd rather go back to his cell and let them do what they gonna do. He ain't been able to get no sleep. He pacing back and forth in his cell. He done went gray. I don't think he gonna make it. I don't see how he gonna make it. If on day one, his stomach acting up like that, he gonna get sicker and sicker. He gonna be a skeleton in the courtroom. The jury gonna be bringing him food up there that he gonna have to eat during the damn session to make sure he don't die. They might have to hook him up to IVs just to keep him alive during the damn trial. They need to give him some painkillers. Let him smoke a blunt while they deliberating. Get him some drink. Pour him a glass of Ciroc. They about to electrocute his ass. And he gotta sit there and play normal. He going crazy. And when Cassie get up there, I know his blood gonna be boiling. I know he gonna want to get up and let everybody know how he really feel, what she was really doing. Cassie a demon. He done paid her $30 million. What's she talking for? She need to get somewhere and be quiet. And it's only gonna get worse.
Welcome to the Noon and Beyond Computers. Potential jurors being questioned one by one in the highly anticipated trial. But here is what we know as of right now. Now, Combs faces several charges, including sexual assault, sex trafficking, drugging, coercion, and racketeering. Several dozen prospective jurors got a brief description of the charges against Combs this morning, and jury selection could take several days, with opening statements and the start of testimony expected sometime next week.
Potential jurors, after they received that brief explanation of the charges against Diddy, the judge also reminded them that Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges and that he is presumed innocent. Diddy walked into the courtroom hugging his attorneys. We also saw him in regular clothing, not his usual prison uniform. He wore a sweater with a white collared shirt underneath and gray slacks. Now, the jury will be anonymous, and this is often the case in high-profile trials to protect potential jurors from harassment. Now, jurors are being questioned one by one, and the court hopes to seat a panel of 12 of them, plus 6 alternates by the end of the week before opening statements begin on Monday.
They said Diddy was looking at them people in the jury like he remembered their faces. He remembered them showing up to his concerts. He remembered them chasing him down the street. Them same people that used to be his fans, not his worst enemies. His life depends on people that sat at home and watched all them documentaries about him. They believe every word that TMZ said about him. They believe every word that Cassie had to say about him. I know he up in the court tripping. He got the bubble guts. Them people don't know him personally. He don't recall none of them people ever being to his party to give a testimony against him and his behavior at them parties. They need to have a jury of celebrities people that have been around him firsthand that can testify to his character instead of some people that just walked in off the street.
The trial is expected to last around 2 months, and we can expect prosecutors to argue that Diddy used his power to force women to participate in drug-fueled orgies that lasted days, known as freak-offs. Diddy's defense team says everything was consensual, and his attorney, Mark Igdifilo, said during a hearing last month that there's nothing criminal about a swinger's lifestyle. One of the 4 alleged victims expected to testify during this trial include R&B singer and ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. And tonight, just a few miles uptown, is the Met Gala. This, of course, was an event that Diddy attended for years. It's an event full of glamorous fashion and also fundraising. But instead of heading there tonight, Diddy will be going back to his jail cell before coming back here tomorrow.
That's a shame. Him and Cassie went to the Met Gala, and he paid for everything. All she had to do was put on the dress. He walked her around and introduced her as his lady. The whole world knew they was a couple. Now she's saying that she was forced against her will to put on that dress. She was forced against her will to be with Diddy. She was forced to have intercourse with them men, even though she the one that looked them up on Backpage. She admitted that she was the one that found the male escort. She got to choose who she wanted to lay with, but she's saying Diddy forced her to do it while he pleasured himself as he watched her be pleasured by them men. Now the Met Gala happening down the street from the courthouse. Cassie gonna be testifying against him. It's funny how things change.
Joining us now for more on this is Eric Rudish, managing partner and senior litigation consultant at Blueprint Trial Consulting. Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so the question right off the bat here is that with Diddy's name all over the headlines, how do lawyers even begin to seat an impartial jury?
Well, the first step is the juror questionnaire. I'm sure there'll be several questions asking prospective jurors what they know about the trial and, more importantly, what opinions they formed about the case.
Yeah.
So that's going to certainly provide a good deal of information for each side to know if a prospective juror can be fair and impartial in this case.
Absolutely. Now, I know that the prosecution is painting this as a years-long criminal operation. So what does the defense have to do to maybe dismantle that narrative?
Well, I mean, first step is obviously selecting a jury that's going to be, for both sides fair and impartial. So looking at the questionnaire and seeing what opinions people have or experiences related to sexual abuse, sexual lifestyle, views towards law enforcement, whether they've have negative view of law enforcement, feel that law enforcement unfairly targets individuals, particularly minorities.
Yeah.
So, people are going to look through that evidence through their own lens, and their lifestyles, experiences are going to certainly be a big factor in how jurors view this case.
This the type of case that don't need no jury. The jury already been tainted. The whole world already have an opinion. They not going to find nobody that's oblivious to what's going on, who ain't heard of the diddler. A phrase that I made up. I deserve $1 billion for that. They ain't going to give me my credit. Who ain't heard nothing about baby oil and all of the drugs? Who ain't heard nothing about no pink cocaine? We all heard the stories. Every time you turn on the TV, and you ain't got to be on social media, they been running the commercials for his documentary on regular television. I was watching the basketball game. They got the Diddy documentary on Tubi. They got it on Pluto. They got it on Hulu. I was watching the playoffs, and all you see is the Diddy documentaries. And I'm trying to see what's going on with sports. Diddy ain't got nothing to do with basketball, football, or none of that. He all over the place. The jury been tainted. They need to just go ahead, sit in the courtroom, and put out all the facts. The judge, the lawyers, Diddy, whoever the people that's accusing him, whoever the people that's willing to speak up on his behalf. The public ain't got nothing to do with this at the end of the day. The public shouldn't have had a right to put this man in jail because the public done already indulged in everything that he put out. If he was running a criminal organization like how they say he was, the public funded the criminal organization. So unless they trying to put the public in jail with him for participating in everything he had going on, the public ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
So for the defense team, what would be the ideal juror that they would want seated on this?
So the ideal juror would be someone who potentially has more favorable attitudes or experiences towards, hip hop culture,
Okay.
has a maybe non-traditional sexual lifestyle, maybe has had negative experiences with law enforcement. So, someone who, with those experiences and attitudes can certainly be much more receptive to some of the evidence that the prosecutor is going to bring forth against Sean Combs.
You brought up the issue of the evidence. A lot of the evidence is going to be very graphic. So how do you bring that out there to the jurors without alienating some of them?
Right. It's all going to be about the witnesses that come forth for both the prosecution and the defense, and for Sean Combs is a team to put that evidence, particularly the visual evidence, into context.
Yeah.
And it might be the kind of case that Sean Combs may need to testify to provide his story to the jurors.
Do you think he will?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But that might be a decision that might be made, during the trial to see how the trial is going. But typically, defendants, as you know, do not testify.
Yeah, they don't want to get themselves in any more trouble than they are already currently in.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, well, we certainly appreciate you being here and in breaking this down for us. It's going to be a complicated process, obviously, but the world will be watching.
Y'all let me know in the comment section how y'all would have went about it if y'all was asked to be a part of the jury in the Diddy trial. I would have let them people know straight up. I do YouTube videos about Diddy. I've been covering this for the past 5 years. I've been speaking on this man before he even got called out for allegations. Everybody know he was weird. People were skeptical about his relationship with Cassie when he was with Cassie, all on the blogs. I remember Diddy on World Star Hip Hop doing questionable things way back in the day. I heard stories about Diddy killing Tupac and Biggie. That was back in the 90s. We in 2025. What y'all expect me to think? That he a saint? We know he crooked like a roach leg. Throw him in jail. What y'all need me for? Y'all got all the evidence out there. They've been doing documentaries about this man since way back in the day. People ain't oblivious to who he is. Hell yeah, I know who Diddy is. I got on some Sean John draws right now. And I was drinking Ciroc when he was running Ciroc. I love De Leon. One of my favorite rappers is the Notorious B.I.G. I grew up listening to Jodeci, Total, Faith Evans. Mace, one of my favorite rappers. Rest in peace to Black Rob. Rest in peace to Craig Mack. What y'all want from me? We know who Diddy is. What y'all want me to play stupid? Get me up out this courtroom. That's what I would have said. But they want somebody that's willing to play games with them just so they can continue to play games with the public.
Live pictures of the New York City courthouse where jury selection for the much talked about trial against media mogul, hip hop artist Sean Diddy Combs began today. It's going to last throughout the week. Trying to find someone who hasn't heard about the case will be one of the many difficult tasks. Diddy's alleged behavior is appalling, reprehensible if true. Diddy reportedly held so-called freak-offs with sex acts that we cannot describe here on family-friendly television. But here's the thing. All those raunchy stories come from what he's been accused of in civil lawsuits. 81 people accused him of sexual assault. 17 say they were under 18. 64 said they believe Diddy forced them to consume things laced with alcohol and or drugs. 41 say they were at an event or party where they were assaulted. One of the lawsuits is sealed. 4 have been dismissed or settled. But here's the thing. He's only being charged with racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. None of the other things is he charged with in criminal court. If he's found guilty, he could very well spend the rest of his life in jail. But this trial on sex trafficking brings up a very critical question about what should be illegal, because the federal trafficking statute is beyond broad. With us now, Barrett Berger, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, where the case is being tried. Mark Eiglash, former federal prosecutor, criminal defense attorney. Nice to see both of you. Ladies first. Barrett, start with you. We'll put the list up. He's been accused of all of these awful things. They're talking about the video of him beating his girlfriend is going to be entered in. He's accused of, but he's charged with these very seemingly specific crimes that have nothing to do with all the bad stuff. Why?
Well, I wouldn't classify it that way. I think actually what he's been charged with encompasses a lot of the bad stuff that you discussed. For example, the racketeering conspiracy, one of the beauties of the racketeering statute is that it allows prosecutors to bring in a whole pattern of small predicate acts. So, for example, if there's something that happened that may not on its own be a federal crime that federal prosecutors wouldn't be able to charge standing alone, or if there's something that happened that may be outside the statute of limitations, with this RICO statute, they can bring all of these individual acts in, charge them as part of this pattern conspiracy that was all done on behalf of the enterprise. So I actually think this RICO conspiracy is a really strong charge.
I think it's very strong.
Then.
I guess, Mark, the point I'm trying to get at is this idea of trafficking, which essentially means, as I read it, and I'm not a lawyer, but it's a way to charge people with something that is a really horrible sounding crime without necessarily having proof of all of these bad acts, because all you got to prove is that you brought someone across state lines and paid them for sexual services, even if those sexual services may have been consensual.
They got a movie on Tubi right now called Flued Out. People get flued out every day. Why y'all think the airports be so packed like that? Them people ain't doing business. They going to get some booty or give up some booty. They got people to see, places to go and people to see, things to do and people to do. People on the expressway right now going to get some booty. That's why it be gridlock traffic out there, because they got a date set up. Everybody ain't trying to get home. And if they is trying to get home, they trying to get home to some booty. People travel all the time for pleasure. They ask you when you get to places, are you here for business or pleasure? Sometimes it's both. But since Diddy did it, it's the end of the world. When people do this all the time, how many of y'all been in long distance relationships? You done met somebody on the internet. Y'all been talking for months, talking for years. Y'all finally gonna see each other. Y'all don't know how long it's gonna be before y'all see each other again. If y'all really feeling the person, y'all gonna get it in before you head back. You might get flued out. Some of y'all ladies out there be flying men now. It happens. That's the world we live in. People got free will, especially when you got money. Don't think I'm making excuses for Diddy. But this trial, this ain't got nothing to do with nobody. That grown people making grown decisions. When they start putting some kids up there and saying that he did something to some children, it's a different story. Then it's a different ball game. And if they did that, it really wouldn't be nothing else to talk about. If they had hardcore evidence and proof that Diddy was dealing with some underage people, then they can go ahead and make this trial realistic. Until then, this ain't nothing but some foolishness.
You make a very valid point, and the jurors may feel the exact same way. When the typical person hears of that particular charge, they think of one thing, and this may not actually be that, which is why jury selection, which is going on right now, is so key. Prosecutors need to make sure that they vet these jurors to be able to say that they can set aside their bias and they can find him guilty if the facts meet the law.
Boy, I feel like I'm the only person here who's the defense attorney for Sean Combs, which is something I never thought I would be in that position.
I'll defend him.
Okay, well, look, I think a lot of people would. His lawyer was originally on Cuomo. Take a listen.
He's fighting. He's fighting. He's innocent, and he's going to be able to show it. They never once said that these women didn't consent to what happened. Not once.
Can they all have consented, or were they minors and therefore the consent doesn't apply?
Maybe it's not what someone here would do in the bedroom, but that doesn't mean that what he did was a crime.
Is that where this is headed, Barrett?
Yeah, this is exactly their defense. Their defense is going to be this was consensual. It might be perverse to many members of the jury, but it's not illegal. That's going to be their entire defense. And what the government's really going to have to overcome in order to meet its burden is saying, no, this is not charged because it's kinky. This is not charged because we disagree with the conduct. It's charged because it's illegal. It's charged because it's commercial sex acts. It's traveling over state lines. It's doing this through fraud and coercion. That's why we're charging it, not because it's kinky.
Mark, at the same time,
you get the right jurors.
Yeah,
you got to get the right jurors. You got to get the ideal scenario is you get as close to 12 people, all loving freak-offs and lube, and you take one step back, because obviously they're not going to reveal that, but they've got to be open-minded to dismiss some of the very liberal, outrageous, and what you would say is offensive conduct as, well, that's not a crime. Where's the crime? And when you narrow it down, you get people who get cross-examined vigorously, and they can't be believed. And there's where you get your reasonable doubt, if at all.
So, Barrett, I guess this is where I keep coming back to, he's accused in all these civil suits of sexual assault, of these really awful and horrible things. And people know about this case. Everybody's heard about it. And then they get in, and the prosecutor is saying, oh, well, person A was paid. They came over to across state lines to Diddy's house. They engaged in all of these acts. And, well, was person A coerced? No, that's not what was happening. It was consensual. At some point, do jurors go, gee, I don't think somebody should spend the rest of their life in jail for that, as perverse as it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have to show, and they've alleged some of these things in the indictment, they're going to have to show that it was more than just consensual sex that people might disagree with. They're going to have to show that this meets the threshold, not just of the law, but also that the facts are there, that they, are enough to convince 12 people, right? I do think, though, when they see things like the video that we've all now watched, of him, I mean, that's pretty shocking conduct. So I think even with something like that, like, we don't know their case, we don't know all their evidence. The one piece that we have seen is pretty shocking. I can imagine that swaying 12 people.
Yeah, the video is. Mark, Barrett, thank you both. Appreciate it. I think we can all agree we wish it was on television, but it will not be.
Man, y'all got to let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. They going to go on and on with this thing for months, and they can make whatever they want to make out of it. We live in the world of AI. This thing computer generated. Is it entertaining at this point? Is y'all really interested? Do y'all feel like y'all being force-fed this nonsense? I mean, the world is advancing in technology. There's amazing things going on out there. There's detrimental things going on towards humanity that we really need to be concerned about. Mother Nature on her last leg. We don't know what's going on with the food supply, the water supply, the air all jacked up, and they going overboard with some nonsense about some celebrities that spend their money how they want to spend their money and do what they want to do as celebrities, as if it's a crime to humanity that Diddy had Cassie freaking off with some BBCs that she ordered online. Hey, if it's important to y'all, let me know in the comment section. If you feel deeply about this Diddy tribe, you feel like this is going to be affecting your taxes and your livelihood. If Diddy messing with your paper, or you feel like you ain't going to be able to function in society, you got ADHD because of what Diddy did with some escorts. If you feel like your children ain't going to be able to breathe air because Cassie is allegedly a victim of a man that she was involved with for a whole decade, that he paid her handsomely, and she messed around and married the trainer that Diddy got for her in order to stay in shape so he could take on the red carpets. That's all she was good for. It ain't like she had no hit albums. He just needed somebody decent on his arm, and whatever she wanted, he let her do it. She was just there as a prop to make him look good on social media. She served her purpose. He treated her like a dog, and she went for it, for the money and the drugs and the fame and the liquor and everything else that came along with being a celebrity. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this in the comment section. I got so much love for y'all. And one more thing, subscribe to my channel if that's what you want.
Subscribe to my channel if that's what you want. But if that's not what you like, then you must be a punk. Hold on now, here we go. Who is this girl? She got that junk in her trunk. Baby girl, back it up, poke out your rump. It's S.A.T. that you want, and my music hit so hard, make you say